Jessica Marie Lee. There you go. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here this evening. My name is John Berman. I'm with Congressman Blum's office. I'm going to take 20 seconds or so just real quick to say the process of how the town hall will work. We'll get started here in just a minute. Congressman Blum will give you a quick update, and then we'll go right into the Q&A session. If you want to ask a question, you're asked at the front. Someone wrote your name down. We'll draw names at random. If your name is drawn, I want you to come on down to the front here with Justin or Jack. Just get in line, and I'll come grab you when it's your chance, your turn to answer the question. So to get these started, I will introduce you to a Marine veteran, hot overall. Everyone will please rise and we give the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Doctor. All right, so if you wouldn't mind, would you go ahead and pull 4 names and start just one at a time? Dick DeWater. Dan Callahan. Jack Yates. Stacy Wagner. Hello, everyone. Great to be in Cedar Falls. It's great to be here. It's great to be in this gym. I coached basketball for the New Senior for 6 years, and we came to this gym often, and usually left with a loss. But it's good memories here, and we were really, my wife and I were really sad to hear about the tragic deaths of Coach Jerry's Lighthouse and his wife, car accident. Very tragic, and he, I must say, what a first-class guy, a winning coach, as you can tell by the banners, and a great teacher for his players, and hats off to Coach Lighthouse and his wife. But he's so tragic. Second, I'll give a shout out to the Cedar Falls Police Department. I have ridden with them. Cedar Rapids Police, Dubuque Police, Waverly Police, Waterloo Police. And no police department's perfect. I'll be the first to say that. But these guys are good, and I have a lot of respect for our uniformed police officers before I rode with them. I've got even more respect now. They do an amazing job. They're highly trained. They're highly skilled. And thank you for keeping us safe, guys. And I won't go through my normal, I've been going through a little intro the last 2 nights, and people started yelling and screaming and telling me to shut up. So I'll shut up. So let's have the first questioner come here. But I forgot one thing. Where's my wife? Where's she? Oh, I just want to introduce to you my wife, Karen. Wave, Karen. It's a crazy job. This is a pretty crazy job. A lot of sacrifices made by the family, and you couldn't do this job if you didn't have a supportive spouse and a supportive family. So love you, honey, and thank you for supporting me. All right, your name, where you live, and your question.
Dick DeWater, and I live in Evansdale. So when you were running, you were talking about term limits. Do you still believe in term limits?
Great question. I think, did everybody hear the question? Term limits? I said I believe in term limits when I ran, and after being in Washington now for 2.5 years, I twice as much believe in term limits. We have too many career politicians there, and when you go there,
their mind changes. They come back here and they tell the people, oh, I believe in this, I believe in that, and they go to Washington, D.C., and it totally switches, and they forget where they came from. Some of my colleagues, both sides of the aisles, barely go back to their districts, barely go back home. I'm back in Iowa every chance I get, trust me. So yes, I believe in term limits, and I hope with the new president, he says he wants to drain the swamp. Geez, I want to be right there with him draining the swamp. We want term limits. We want term limits. Drain the swamp. Green cards, drain the swamp. Career politicians. Yeah. I just want to say, in addition to term limits, I also introduced a few bills. One is, you don't know this probably, I can fly first class on air flights back and forth to Washington, paid for by you, the taxpayer. My bill would make that illegal to do that anymore. Secondly, here in the district, I can lease a vehicle to drive around the district doing official business instead of my own Ford F-150 sitting out there. Guess how much we can spend on a lease? $1,200 a month. And lots of my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, do that, paid for by you. My bill would make that illegal. I also had a bill that said, let's end the congressional pension program. It's a Cadillac program. Nobody in this room has a program that good. End it. Also, I proposed a lifetime ban on lobbying. Lifetime ban. You should never be able to lobby if you've been in Congress. My colleagues, they get beat or they quit. They go over to K Street where the lobbyists are. They make over $100,000 a year. Former Speaker Boehner will be making over $1 million a year. You shouldn't be cashing in on the public's vote, should you? And the last bill, I love this one. Let's tie our pay to the pay of the average American. So if you all get a pay cut, we should get a pay cut as well. Now, sadly, I'm behind all these bills. Sadly, you can ask how many of these have come up for a vote. Zero. Okay, that's wrong. And that's the Republican Party running the show. So I'll take on my own party. I voted against John Boehner. It was my first vote 2 years ago. My own speaker I voted against. We need to get these bills to the House floor for a vote. We need to drain the swamp. Name?
Dan Callahan. Hi, I'm Dan Callahan. First of all, I'd like to thank you for doing these. I know they're kind of uncomfortable at times, so thank you for showing up. And second of all, I'd like to ask you, in view of the recent revelations and the firing of Comey, are you about ready to call for an independent counsel? And if not, what will it take?
I think they like your question. I think they like the question, huh? First of all, I'm on the oversight committee. We do some investigations. You may know Trey Gowdy. He's on that committee with me. Oh, you don't like Trey Gowdy. All right. We're investigating the president right now. The emoluments clause of the Constitution says says the president should not be receiving money from foreign countries or benefiting. So we're investigating that right now. The House Intelligence Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee are both, and the Justice Department, all three separately are investigating the Russia connections with Trump. It's being investigated. So right now I don't think we need an independent counsel. There's been zero shred of evidence that there's been any collusion with Russia. There's no evidence so far that there's been any collusion. You may not like that. That's true so far. If they uncover something, then if they did something illegal, they colluded, they should be taken to task. If they haven't colluded, there's no evidence of collusion so far. So let the investigations go. Unless you all know something I don't know. I've been in classified briefings with Secretary Comey, I've been in classified briefings with Secretary Comey, with Defense Secretary Mattis, with Daniel Coates, who's a National Intelligence Officer, and with Pompeo, who's a CIA Director. I can't tell you what was in it, because that'd be against the law, what was said. But so far, there's not been evidence of collusion with the Trump campaign in Russia. Now, is there most likely, did Russia try to influence our election? I think so. Yeah, I think that'll come out. Did they most likely hack into the emails at the DNC? Yeah, I'd say that's probably going to come out. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that's true. But that's not the Trump campaign colluding that we know of yet. It's being investigated. So that's where we're at on that. Oh, okay. Jack Yates. Jack Yates. He's over here. And
he's over here. So why don't you go ahead and pull another name from the bottom?
I'm not looking. Laval Poliquin? Poliquin? Who's he?
He's Jack Yates.
Oh, this is Jack Yates right here, right? Okay.
Pull one more from the bottom.
I'm not qualified to do this, I don't think. Esther Bennett? Esther Bennett? Esther? Esther. Where are you at, Esther? Okay. Now, who's next? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Cedar Falls, Congressman Blum. My name is Jack Yates. I have a question about the Health Care Act that you recently voted for. I noted that it drastically cuts funds for Medicaid over time, and it also turns Medicaid back as a block grant to the states. Now, I think Medicaid does a lot more than most people realize. We know that it pays for the health care of indigents, but it also pays for nursing home care for most people who need it. And it also provides funds for special education. My daughter, Elizabeth, she's a special needs child. She got a great education here right at Cedar Falls High, partly based on Medicaid funds. And she is now a productive member of society. She has a job because of the education she got. My question, Congressman Blum, to you is, what's going to happen given how much we're cutting? For one thing, we can't even know exactly what the effect will be. Much of the effect of cutting Medicaid drastically will not be known until the state of Iowa weighs in with what it's going to do with this block grant. What are you going to say to the parents of the 600 students here currently at Cedar Falls High who are getting a special education partly based on Medicaid funds?
Okay, nice to meet you. Medicaid, the bill, first of all, the bill is not law. The bill only passed the House, just FYI. It has to go to the Senate yet. It may totally change in the Senate. They may throw it out and start over. Then it has to go to conference. Then it changes again. Then it goes back to the House, and it goes back to the Senate. And then if it makes it through all of that, it goes to the president for his signature. There's $880 billion cuts in Medicaid, and that's over 10 years. That's $88 billion, and we're going to return power to the states. As Jefferson said, the government that governs best is closest to the people. So we're going to return power back to the states. If you think Washington, D.C. does anything good, I don't think Washington, D.C. does too much good. We need to get stuff back to the states, in the cities, and the counties, in Cedar Falls, and in Iowa. We're going to return that money as a block grant to the states and let states do what they do best. They're a heck of a lot more efficient than we are in Washington, D.C. You're some of the few people I've ever met that think Washington is more efficient than state. Washington is not. Washington wastes so much of your money, it's unbelievable. $400 billion a year is wasted in Washington, D.C. Duplicate programs. And I could go on and on and on. So let's have the next questioner. Listen to us, somebody said. You could also listen to me. It's a two-way street.
Hi. Dr. Stacy Wagner from Cedar Falls. I represent the Iowa chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And so as a pediatrician, I'd like to know what you're going to do to protect children's health care. CHIP, for example, with the new health care bill.
Yeah. She asked about children's health care and the new health care bill. To the best of my knowledge, I don't have the bill memorized. I did not see anything in there about reducing funds to CHIP. I didn't see anything in there. So as far as taking care of children, well, we could talk about the whole health care bill, but I get shouted down when I do that. The health care, first of all, we're not going to have insurance in the individual market in Iowa starting January 1st because all the insurers are pulling out. All the insurers are pulling out. So we have to do something, or everyone that gets their health care on the individual market isn't going to have any options. Aetna's out, Wellmark's out, and Medica just announced that they're going to be out as well. So we're going to have none, zero. So the option is we can keep what we have, which hasn't worked. What we have hasn't worked. What we have hasn't worked because you're not going to have insurance. You're not going to have insurance in January. I mean, we can do nothing. You want us to leave it the way it is, not touch it? Is that what you want? Then you won't have insurance if you're in the individual market in January. You won't have insurance. Next question.
Hi, I'm Laval Peliquin, Washburn, Iowa, and the name is Laval Peliquin, Washburn, Iowa, and you started answering part of my question. And soon we'll have no health insurance provider that an individual can purchase in Iowa. What temporary provisions do you have or suggestions you have to provide for those people, number one? Number two is this. The healthcare market, we're limited to buying in the state. When will we be allowed to buy across state lines, which for those of us who do have to buy our own insurance, it will be more efficient?
Are you an Army veteran?
I am.
What years?
From 1987 from 1978 to 1987.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I'll answer the second part of your question first. I'm 100% for buying insurance across state lines. That'll make it more competitive, and it'll help bring the prices down. We need to make that happen. And I'm not going to get inside baseball here, but through this bill, which is called reconciliation in the budget, we couldn't do it in this bill. So I hope, I pray that Democrats will work with us. I think they will on this, and help everybody be able to buy insurance across state lines. I can buy house insurance online. I can buy car insurance online. Why can't I buy health insurance online? The second thing is, I'll answer your question in a second. The second thing is I support Dr. Rand Paul's idea of everybody. We should let groups form associations that can then sell insurance. For example, if you're a member of the NRA, they should be able to sell you insurance. If you're a member of a credit union, they should be able to sell you health insurance. That would be millions and millions of people banded together to drive prices down. Now, we're going to be out of insurers, as you said, January 1st, if something doesn't get passed in Congress. One idea that I've heard, and this probably is what's going to have to happen, is we will help people buy into the Medicaid system, help pay the premium in the Medicaid system as a short-term gap thing, because they can't just be left hanging. They can't not have insurance. So I think that's a pretty good idea, actually. And I need a drink.
I'll pull a couple.
I'm going to call a couple more names here. Zach Simonson, come on down. Matthew Hanna. Robert Hart.
Somebody said the price. That's one of the reasons I was a holdout in this bill, because I want to make sure, if we can, that the prices come down for the 176 million people who work in this country and get their health insurance through their employers in group health settings. I want to make, the original bill didn't have anything in there, in my estimation, that brought down the premiums for them. Since Obamacare's been implemented, it hasn't worked for them. Their prices have gone up, their deductibles have gone up, the out-of-pocket's gone up. They said you can keep your doctor, you can't keep your doctor, you can keep your hospital, you can't keep your hospital, keep your health plan, you can't keep your health plan. So it didn't work. It didn't work for a lot of people. It didn't work. I want to make sure we can bring the prices down for the people who are working and paying taxes, and their taxes run this government. Yes.
Hi. My name's Esther Ben. I live in Cedar Falls. What are you going to tell the people that can't afford it at all.
Afford.
Health insurance.
They're most likely on Medicaid.
No.
Most likely.
We're going to lose that with that bill.
Okay. First of all, and I'll probably get shouted down, so I may end up stopping halfway through this answer. First of all, there's upfront refundable tax credits. Okay, that's in this bill. That replaces the Obamacare premium subsidies, I think they were called. That replaces that. They're up front, start in January, and they pay it right to the insurance company. Secondly, pre-existing conditions. Secondly, we're going to introduce competition in this marketplace, and when you have competition, the prices will come down. We can sell insurance across state lines. We can form buying groups for insurance, and we make it more transparent. More choices for the consumers, more choices for the patient. We have more choices, prices will come down because you can't afford it anymore. What good's insurance if you can't afford it? Thirdly, pre-existing conditions. We're putting $135 billion into a pre-existing conditions fund. Okay, next one.
Hello, Congressman.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Zach Simonson. I don't know if everyone in the room knows this, but Congressman Blum's on the Small Business Committee. And I bring it up because I don't even know if the congressman knows because he's only been to one hearing of that committee so far this year.
That is not true. You're entitled to you are entitled to your own opinion, not your own facts. So that is totally untrue. Yeah, it's untrue. Maybe it's untrue.
But we're not paying you to attend or not. We're not paying you to not attend your committee hearings. We're not paying you to have tantrums in front of children on the news. If you don't want to do your job, can I have it?
You can certainly run for it. You can certainly run I'd encourage it, in fact. The media is entitled to be a lapdog for certain organizations. They can do that. And I'm entitled to walk out of an interview. I thought that'd be the reaction. And I'm entitled to walk out of an interview. President Reagan, remember when President Reagan was at Reykjavik, Iceland, negotiating with the Russian Prime Minister Gorbachev, and he walked out. Remember? That worked out pretty well for the United States.
First, let me say, Congressman Blum, thank you for being here, and I hope you'll be able to stay with us the entire time. I want to ask about...
I hope so, too. Do you know something I don't?
I want to ask about the American Health Care Act, because when Trump Care 1 was unable to pass the House, you released a very nice statement in which you said Congress needed to slow down, you needed to evaluate a plan that would be affordable for all Americans, and you needed to wait till a Congressional Budget Office produced a report. And yet, you voted for a bill which is far worse than Trump Care 1, with no CBO rating, which was shoved through the Congress, after all of us, many of us, I'm sure, wrote to you and begged you not to do that until we had a sufficient time. So I want to know what happened.
I do agree on one of those things. I wish we could have slowed down. I don't run Congress, though. It would have been nice to slow down. But that was also before Iowa's 3 insurers said they're pulling out of the market. So if we want to slow down and slow walk this and have it take 2 years, y'all are not going to have insurance once again. Secondly, the original bill was scored twice by CBO, and it's twice by CBO, the original bill. And so the only thing that wasn't scored was a small addendum to it that is not going to impact it that greatly. Thirdly, it reduces the deficit. And part of budget reconciliation requires that it reduces the deficit. So the bill does reduce the deficit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to pull a couple more names here. If you hear your name, come on down to the front. David Glenn Burns. I believe this is Marnell Lyle. And Tressa Habenick. Tressa. Do we have a Tressa? Kara Mabry. All right.
My name is Robert Hart, and I'm from Waterloo. My question doesn't have to deal with the AHCA. It's more has to deal with what people call Donald Trump's Muslim ban. I graduated with quite a few people that were refugees from Burma and from Bosnia. And my question for Congressman Blum is if he supports this proposed ban, and if so, how can he justify it given the population that he represents?
Yeah. My daughter-in-law is a refugee from Bosnia, in fact. Rusmira is. Secondly, I do support the ban is not on Muslims. It's on terrorist-sponsored countries. It's the same countries that President Obama identified as terrorist sponsors of terrorists. Same countries that President Obama identified as sponsors of terrorists. And thirdly, we can't properly vet the backgrounds of the refugees coming from most of those countries. I've been in classified briefings where we went over this, and we can't properly vet them. Now, if we can't properly vet somebody coming from a terrorist-sponsored nation, I say we shouldn't be letting them in here until we can vet their backgrounds. So it's not a Muslim ban. It's not a Muslim ban. It's a ban of terrorist-sponsored nations. I think the better solution is for us to set up safe zones in region, patrolled by NATO forces, so those people don't want to come to the United States halfway around the world. Totally different culture. Keep them in their region. Keep them in their region. Keep them in the area. Keep them safe. Keep them safe. Help them out. And then when the war is over in their homeland, they can go back into their villages. That's a great compromise. That's a great compromise. We shouldn't be bringing people into the country from any country that we can't properly vet, because the terrorists, ISIS has already said they're one of their best recruiting grounds, one of their best places to recruit future terrorists is from refugees. They told us that. So we need to be very careful.
I prepared it in here. Marnell Lyle. Much of our national conversation, Marnell Lyle, I am a district voter. Much of our national conversation focuses on jobs, both exporting and importing jobs, but much bigger economic disruptors are going to be coming. Automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning. You may have seen a University of Oxford study where 47% of U.S. jobs are going to be at risk for automation. Recently, our new Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, I believe his name is, said this: in terms of artificial intelligence taking over the jobs, I think we're so far away from that it's not even on my radar screen. I think it's 50 to 100 years away. As someone who's interested in emerging technology, and knowing that you are a member of the small business community and chair of the subcommittee on agriculture, energy, and trade, you held a joint meeting with the subcommittee on research and technology titled Improving the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Programs. Small businesses and the service sector jobs and even agriculture are all ripe for automation and artificial intelligence disruption. So here is the question, please. To face this scale of change, we need leadership, and I want to know what you will do in the next year to show foresight about this jobs issue.
Good question. Good question. It's exactly why I'm on the Small Business Committee, because I care deeply about Main Street businesses and businesses in general. And
Please, to face this scale of change, we need leadership, and I want to know what you will do in the next year to show foresight about this jobs issue.
Good question. Good question. It's exactly why I'm on the Small Business Committee, because I care deeply about Main Street businesses and businesses in general. And the reason is the middle class in this country, working families, haven't had a pay raise in about 20 years. If you take away inflation, haven't had a pay raise. Haven't had a pay raise. And we can't lose our middle class in this country. So I care a lot about the economy and getting this economy going again. The last 8 years, we've only been growing 50% of average. That's a fact. That's a fact. What's the average? 3.6%. So we're growing somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8%. That's not good enough. That's not going to create prosperity. It's not going to raise people's wages. So we need to raise people's wages. I disagree with the Treasury Secretary. I'm not sure what he was talking about there, because Mexico, some of our manufacturing jobs have gone to Mexico, but we've lost far more to automation. When I tour plants in eastern Iowa, I am shocked by the level of automation. So it brings a couple things to my mind. I like President Trump's idea of hire American, buy American. We need to try to it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You don't want us to buy American? You don't want us to hire American? I want us to. I want manufacturing jobs here. We can bring back some, not all, we can bring back some manufacturing jobs to the United States. If we could bring back 10% of what we lost, you don't want to bring back manufacturing jobs? Okay, I mean, I do. If we can bring back 10%, the average person's wages will go up. So we need to reignite the manufacturing sector, and that's by lowering the highest corporate tax rate in the world. That's by reducing over-regulations of manufacturers. And it's also by getting people who are physically and mentally able to work off of welfare and get them out working. We have a record number of people in this country not working. Record number of people in this country not working. And the ones that are physically and mentally able to work should be working. And lastly, we need to let's just go on to the next question.
Congressman, my name is Dave Glenn Burns. I'd like to ask a question to you about the role of money, large money in this. I'd like to hear you talk about ethics and conflicts of interest among government officials. Earlier you asked about evidence of collusion from President Trump doing business. It seems to me it would be good for you to call for release of his tax returns.
Stay here. Evidence of collusion with Russia. I said we're investigating the emoluments clause in the Constitution to see if his businesses are receiving money from foreign countries.
I would like to think that the congressman who represents me, I live in this district, I have for 25 years. I would like to see your leadership call for full disclosure of his tax return so we could see if he's got business. I would like to see you lead an effort to look at the role of the corporate financiers in the cabinet. I'd like for you to take a leadership role in calling for the highest ethical standards across all the cabinet officials and leadership. I would be proud to say you were my congressman for that kind of leadership.
There's something out there called a financial disclosure. It's a very, you can say, have you read it? Go out and read it. His is very thick. I have to file it. Anybody that's in Congress or in the White House has to do a financial disclosure. I'll take myself as an example. You go out and read my financial disclosure. And so does the president. You have to disclose every penny of income for the previous year and years. where it came from, and you have to also disclose every asset that you own and where that asset is at. That is far more detailed than a tax return. Far more detailed. He's already filled that. It's far more detailed. You should go out and read that. You should read that for Trump. You should read that for Trump. Trump's tax return is not going to tell you anything. It's not in the financial disclosure that he did. It's not going to tell you anything. Yes.
Hi, my name.
Hi.
My name is Kara, and it's going to be a long question. And everyone, I want to hear the answer, so please. So I come from a single mom, and at the age of 18, my mom told me I had to get off her health insurance. And as someone who had a lot of women issues, you voted for defunding Planned Parenthood, but they offer more than just abortions. So I would go get my, wait. I would go get my yearlies. I would go get testing that I needed, anything I needed done womanly, they offered it for me. I went to college 4 years. I did everything the American way, but I couldn't afford it. And to have you represent me, who's defunding it, you're not really representing me. So can you explain why you did that, even though it does more than abortions?
Okay. Congratulations. I voted to defund that money that goes to Planned Parenthood. We want to keep that money going to women's health, and there's 8,000, let's back up, there's 600 Planned Parenthood centers in the United States, there's 8,000 community clinics. And we want that money to go to the community clinics, which are amazing places that provide all the women's health care services, all of them. But they don't abort babies. In the community health center, I've been here, at the one here, I've been to them in Cedar Rapids and Dubuque. They're amazing. They do a great job. I'm for more funding for community health centers. I love the concept. And they're great places. And they do all the women's health services that Planned Parenthood does, except they don't do the abortions. So I think it's a win-win situation. I think it's a win-win.
All right, everybody, I'm going to call a couple more names. Just one more call on Tressa Habenik. Did Tressa come down? Tressa, are you here? Kara McKean. Tony Hampton. If I call your name, hold on. Dave Diebler. Diebler, come on down, Dave Diebler. Larry Hayes.
Is that Larry Hayes here? No? Larry Hayes there. All right. All right. Hi, I was reading your shirt. Rights for others does not mean less rights for you. It's not pie.
I'm sorry. My name is Kara McKean. I'm from Cedar Falls. I've lived here all my life, so I have so many questions. I don't know which one to ask now. And some people have. I know. And no Friday second questions like the press conference. So I guess my question, just listening to everything that's going on, one thing I'm concerned about, and it's not just in the government, but largely with this administration is, and other news media things, the misinformation and things that come out that are provably not true, not just the administration, and it doesn't happen just in one party or the other, just trying to get a point across by saying things that aren't exactly the way they are. I think that's one of the biggest problems in America right now because nobody knows what is what. And it's happened a lot. I don't want anybody yelling, but it's happened a lot with the health care bill too, just saying things that are provably, obviously not provably because it's not in action, so you have no idea exactly what would happen, but things that probably aren't true. And is there discussion about that sort of thing in Congress or?
Oh, I love your thought here. I'll give you a great example. I ran 2 years ago and 4 years ago. Every time I mentioned we need to reform Social Security and Medicare because they're going broke. I just would say that. And the Democrats would run $1 million in ads against me saying I want to get rid of them. They demagogue the issues to get their side of their party wound up, to get their supporters and activists all wound up. So much false information out there. It's unbelievable.
It's happened with the new Paul Ryan ad, too, about health care.
It's both directions.
Yeah, the things it says are not technically lies, but incredibly misleading. I just don't think it's fair. So.
Yeah, and I've consistently said, and I stand by this Health Care Act and Social Security and Medicare and the big issues of the day need to be bipartisan. But you need two parties. We can't have one party. Right now the Democrats are out of power, so they're going to resist. They're not going to work with us. They said they're not going to work with us. They're going to resist everything. We're not going to get very far. Then it goes the other way when we're out of power, I'm sure. Thank you. We're not going to get much done in Washington when one of the two parties isn't even going to talk to us.
Hey, my name's Dave. I'm from Cedar Falls. I went to high school here, so this is a little weird. I'm a little frustrated with what I perceive to be a lack of clear answers to some of these questions, so I'm going to ask what I think is a...
Well, sometime I get drowned out, so most of the time I do.
So what I'm going to ask you is what I think is a simple question that was asked earlier. I didn't believe in term limits, but I'm starting to come around.
Good.
How many terms are you going to serve?
Yeah, I'm not going to unilaterally disarm myself. So I'm not going to be one of these people that said, I'm going to step down, but no one else has to. No one else has to, but I'm going to. So but that isn't. We should ask how many Democrats are going to subject themselves to term limits. We should ask that as well. But I'm for term limits, and I want to vote. I want to vote, and we should. If we're term limited, we should all be term limited, not just me. Yeah, or do we have Barb Schiff? Barb Schiff? No? Barb's not here? Oh, okay. Try Tony Hampton again. Tony Hampton? One more. Arla McVicker? Right there? Okay. I think he's been waiting.
My name is Larry Hayes, and I'm from here in Cedar Falls. And actually, I have two unrelated questions. The first pertains to health care. My question is, first of all, why is every major medical association, hospital association, and patient advocacy group against the bill that you voted for on Thursday? And why weren't they consulted in the process leading up to your vote? And the other unrelated question is, can you cite a single study that's ever been done that concludes that a tax cut pays for itself?
What was the first question? I forgot it. Larry, what was your first question? What was your first question?
The first question on health care was major medical groups, hospitals.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know why. I don't know. A lot of times there's hidden agendas. A lot of times the American Hospital Association might be against something if they think they're going to make less money. Those big corporate hospitals that no one likes. There's always agendas. Seldom is it what it seems. And the second question, I'm blanking out for some reason. What was the second question?
I'm sorry?
What was your second question? A study that says, does a tax cut pay for it? I look at the 1980. No, I don't read studies about tax cuts. 1980, Reagan cut taxes. We had the longest post-World War II economic expansion and boom since World War II. The 80s, everybody got richer. Everybody did better. Our economy boomed in the 80s because of those Reagan tax cuts. If you believe higher taxes are going to stimulate this economy, that's not the way it works. It is not the way it works.
I'm Barb. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
My head is spinning. Cedar Falls, yeah. My head is spinning because you're espousing these ideas that I'm a small business owner, and
What business? What kind of business?
Retail, and I am not going to be able to afford insurance. And you're talking about being able to buy insurance over state lines. You're a proud member of the Freedom Conference. Why didn't you bring that up? Why is there not a bill?
We did. We did, but it can't go into reconciliation. It's against the rules. It's against the Senate rules. Trust me, we wanted that really bad. Really bad.
So why can't you do it?
It's against the Senate rules. It's against the Senate rules. This health care bill is going back under budget reconciliation, and they got very stringent rules about what can go through reconciliation. I don't like reconciliation rules either, but they are what they are. You have to take that up with Mitch McConnell, Senator Grassley, Senator Ernst.
Okay, but you can as well. They're part of your party.
Oh, I've told them 100 times. I said, your rules are archaic. Your rules are archaic. I don't like them.
So what are you going to do for...
But I'm not a senator. I can't do anything about it.
As a small business owner, you're my representative. What are you doing for me? I mean, I am not...
I think small businesses are going to do great under this new health care bill. They're going to do small businesses, because in the small business market especially, we're going to get that market, especially if states accept, if they apply for and get the waiver.
I'm asking you.
Oh,
How are we going to get that?
right. I believe your premiums are going to go down. I believe they're going to go down. I've read.
How are we going to get the state groups going?
Oh, well, that's up to the state of Iowa. That's up to each state. It's up to each state if they want to do it or not.
So you're saying you can't help us?
Yeah. We're giving the states the option if they want to be in it or out of it. The waivers. I think you'll be better off if they do the waiver, but I think you'll be better off if they don't do the waiver. But I think you'll like if they do the waiver, because there's here's what they're going to do. People with pre-existing conditions, $130 billion in a fund. A lot of people do. $130 billion in a fund, okay? And we're putting it into the pre-existing condition funds of states. And what they do is those folks go into a separate pool. They don't know it. And their premiums are bought down by taxpayers. They pay to the same level as everybody else's. But here's the good news. The folks that don't have pre-ex conditions, which is the majority of the citizens, their premiums can come down as well a lot.
That's called insurance. That's how insurance works.
And secondly, if you're in a small business, I agree. Yeah, and the insurance, healthy people pay for sick people, correct. But the biggest thing for small business is we want to reduce regulations on small business. We want to reduce taxes on small business. We want to get the economy going again. Your business is going to be far better off. You don't think your business is going to grow? It doesn't.
I know my business is going to grow, but tell me about these regulations you're talking about. I mean, those are just phrases. They're not.
Well, let's talk about Waters of the U.S. Act. If you want to talk about the egg industry, that's big here in Iowa, isn't it?
I don't want to talk about the egg
Well, okay, all right.
No, I don't.
Go. Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. As a business owner, I hope you do well. Hi. Name and where you live.
My name is Arla McVicker. I live here in Cedar Falls. First of all, I'm a veteran.
Thanks for your service. What years and what branch?
I was in the Army from 1980 to 1986, and then I had a break when I went to medical school, and then I went into the Guard for a few years. And then I was active duty Air Force at Pope Air Force Base, Flying Tigers, from 1992 to 1995. Now I work for the VA, so I'm a federal employee. And we have been talking quite a bit about 3 bills that are potentially going to go before a vote.
Where do you work at the VA, if I can ask?
Yes. House H.R. 1461, 1364, and 1259. Are you familiar with those bills?
Not by numbers.
Okay. These are 3 bills that potentially will take away some of the rights of federal employees for arbitration if they're wrongly fired, or and one of them is potentially going to decrease or eliminate our federal employee retirement system, and decrease the way that unions can help us to work out differences between us and administrators or the federal government. So I encourage you to look at these bills and vote no, because the VA is struggling as it is. We have thousands of jobs that are left unfilled. If people perceive that VA employees aren't going to be treated very well, then they either will leave the VA or not come into the VA, and that will prevent us from taking care of veterans at the standard we want to take care of them.
Thank you for your service. Thank you. I'm a big advocate for our veterans and the VA system. There's been a lot of bad news about the VA system. Eastern Iowa, though, the last 5 years, every veteran I talked to, other than the ones who are up here tonight, I ask, are we taking care of you in the VA system? 2 in the last 5 years in Eastern Iowa have said no, and then we looked into their cases and helped them. Everybody else has said, yes, we like the VA system, health system in Eastern Iowa. So that's great. We're doing a good job here. If anybody works there in Eastern Iowa. Now, nationally, not so good. People dying on waiting lists nationally. That's why my first bill I authored in Congress was a whistleblower bill. And a whistleblower are those employees who turn in other employees or even management when they're doing things that are not correct. We have example after example after example. I met a gentleman from Philadelphia VA system who worked at the VA hospital in the kitchen, and they had a rat infestation. And he kept wanting the management to do something about it, and they didn't do much about it very quickly, so he went to the newspaper, as he should, and guess what? He got reassigned. He got reassigned to the morgue, in fact. Yeah, that's wrong. My bill would protect whistleblowers, and the biggest reason I want to protect them is in wherever she's at, is in the VA system. We need more whistleblowers in the VA system, and we want to protect them financially and with lawyers and representation. So we need to take care of our veterans. They're national treasures. And I'd say almost on every bill that has something to do with veterans, generally I'm a yes vote.
Okay, you want to ask Tony Hampton? We already called him.
Did we call him?
We called him.
Oh, Tony Hampton again? No? Maureen Doherty? I need a drink of water. Oh my gosh. It's hot.
It is. I'm glad we're sitting by
Especially up here. Nice to meet you.
It's good to meet you too.
Your name, where you're from.
Maureen. I'm Maureen Doherty, and I'm from Cedar Falls. And I would like to ask you where you stand on the administration's position about building a wall between the United States and Mexico.
Yeah, I'm 100% for securing our border with Mexico. Securing it. So whether that's a wall, or that's a fence, or it's a moat, or whatever it might be, or it's electronic surveillance, I am for securing that border. There's a lot of reasons why. First of all, people that are crossing that border illegally, that'll work here for sub wages that are sub what they should be, are driving down wages of Americans. It comes back to America first. Hire American, buy American. I don't want their wages driven down. It's a fact. It's a fact. Secondly, all right, that's okay. Yeah. Secondly, it costs the federal and state governments a total of about $135 billion a year. Illegal immigration does. That's a big number right there. That would easily pay for the cost of a $20 billion wall. Thirdly, you want open borders? People can just come across as they want. That's what you want? Totally open. They decide if they're coming to America. They can tap into our welfare system, our Social Security system. Our Social Security system and our Medicare system are scheduled to go bankrupt. They're scheduled to go bankrupt. But we have a ton more people flooding in. It's only going to make it go bankrupt sooner. Also illegal. Well, okay, I'll stop answering. Also, illegal drugs come across that border big time. No, they don't. They don't. 90% of the cocaine. 90% of the cocaine doesn't come across there. 90% of the cocaine coming to the U.S. is coming across the Mexican border. And then lastly, there's this thing called human trafficking, and most of the human trafficking comes across the Mexican border as well. So there's 5 good reasons we need to secure our border. I think the citizens of this country who pay the bills and who work, they should have a say in who comes into this country and who doesn't. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I believe this is Larry Wyckoff. Wyckoff?
We'll do one more. And then our Thomas Paine will be our last one. Thomas Paine. It's a patriotic name.
Larry Wyckoff. Thank you very much, Rod. What I want to ask and profess to say is how positive Trump has made a good impression on America. When I went...
Hold on. You're going to get a reaction. I figured there'd be a lot of red cards on that one. Go ahead.
Okay, so when I went to vote the 8th of November, I did not...
Hold on.
Can we just wait?
Let him speak. Everybody else got to ask their question. Just because you disagree with somebody, you shouldn't shout them down.
When I voted the 8th of November, I did not have one Soviet Union Russian soldier over my back telling me how to vote. There was no collusion, and Donald Trump is a builder, just like our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Do you have a question?
That was my statement.
That's hard to follow, huh?
Yeah, that's hard to follow. I'm Thomas Paine from Waverly, Iowa.
Hold on. Thomas Paine from Waverly, Iowa.
That's right. And
great small town.
It is a great small town. Thank you. One of the things I do agree with you is I don't like Obamacare, but I do like single payer. What specifically, other than you hate the federal government, what specifically do you not like about universal health care?
The biggest thing that comes to my mind is Medicare. The average couple over their lifetime pays $122,000 into Medicare. Okay? Average couple pays $122,000 in taxes into Medicare. The average couple in their lifetime takes out $387,000 in benefits from Medicare. Now that's a losing proposition. That's for every couple in the United States. Medicare's going bankrupt. It's going bankrupt. So single payer would be Medicare. Single payer would be Medicare. It's going bankrupt. I'm not sure. No, I don't know. No. The Medicare is going bankrupt. It's going bankrupt. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I've enjoyed being here. It's great to be in Cedar Falls. Thank you so much.